Hey, Mike here with Canadian Musician once again at the Sheridan Centre Hotel. Canadian Music Week is going on, and it is my absolute pleasure to have Marika Anthony-Shaw, violin and viola player with, formerly with Arcade Fire, and now founder and CEO of the band's charitable organization Plus One. And Marika, thank you for doing this. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Is this your first time at CMW, or you kind of a veteran of it, or not sure?
I don't know if a veteran's the right word. I've certainly participated in CMW before, but it's been a little while, so I'm thrilled to be here.
Okay. I know Arcade Fire kind of overshot the whole CMW showcase thing. You guys went from who's Arcade Fire to holy shit, they're in Madison Square Garden. But yeah, obviously the main, I guess, why you're here, you're on a charitable I think it was called Musicians and Charity panel this morning with a number of other fine folks. And like I said, you're now CEO full-time of Plus One. So I could do the whole intro and explain.
I'm now an executive.
Now you'd be on the cover of Executive Monthly.
Exactly.
Sorry, that inside joke from 5 minutes ago. But
Viola Monthly, if you're listening, I'm still waiting for my cover shot.
Just to give the very brief version of Plus One, obviously is a charitable organization started by Arcade Fire. That the name kind of derives from the obvious sort of framework for the organization, where $1 from every Arcade Fire concert ticket is taken and given to charitable organizations on the ground in Haiti. But that's kind of the Closed Notes version. Do you want to flesh that out a bit, as far as, because I know it's expanded beyond Arcade Fire and you guys have raised a ton of money and got involved in a lot of partnerships. Do you want to flesh that out before we get into the details?
Yeah, sure. So Plus One certainly started as just an initiative that Arcade Fire was doing. It wasn't formal. We didn't call it anything. But when the band was at in an awesome position of being able to start giving back, it was really early on, and as soon as basically everyone was kind of like, oh wow, we might not need day jobs anymore, it was kind of like, how can we contribute? So we started adding $1 onto a ticket to Partners in Health, an organization that works on the ground in Haiti. And it was just extremely effective. And so we were playing to 1,000 people a night, and then 2,000 people a night, and then 5,000 people a night. And suddenly, just because we were doing what we were already doing anyways, and people were already coming to these shows, this support was raised, and it wasn't, we didn't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. It was super seamless or frictionless, as people are talking about. So what the next piece of that was that we got some volunteers that came out to really thank our fans. The action had already happened by just being together and being in a space and sharing this magical thing. And so we had volunteers come in that learned about Partners in Health, that learned about what we were doing, and really there just to thank people, not ask for anything, but just thank people. And that became this really effective relationship piece, or this really extraordinary part of tour. And then the questions that we were having was why isn't everybody doing this? Why isn't this standard? Yeah. And so then trying to find out what some of those barriers were. Yeah. And then really the evolution of Plus One as an organization was removing those barriers to help really standardize this across the industry, that we can all really maximally use these platforms that we are given. And so Plus One, partners with artists to maximize their platform as they use it for social impact. Mm-hmm. And the biggest way we do that is through $1 per ticket. Yeah. We work in terms of partnerships with effective organizations that are really using evidence to make change and to move the needle. And so we kind of help foster those relationships, and we raise a lot of money. We've raised $4 million now. Yeah. We've got 52 bands doing this, extraordinary acts, but it's night after night in venues all around North America and Europe and the UK and Australia. This is happening all the time. And the vision is really let's normalize this. Let's have it be something where we can participate in the needle moving by gathering. People are right now in life are talking about how do we organize people. We really got to get organized. We really got to get organized. Music is the most natural organizer and has been forever. We have thousands millions of people in all these rooms already across the nation. So let's leverage that. And that's really what Plus One is all about right now.
So as far as the timeline, because I know Arcade Fire as a group is very, is very involved in Haiti, and I believe there's a familial reason for that. As Regine's family is from Haiti originally. Was Arcade Fire a cause band, quote unquote, prior to that, or did this start with that disaster hitting home and be like, how can we help in Haiti specifically?
So I think the short answer is Haiti specifically.
Okay.
And I think that Arcade Fire is not as much a cause band as like a value system band.
Yeah, okay.
And so I think that what Plus One really lets people do is, instead of it being like synonymous of like we fundraise for charity, mm-hmm. that's actually not, the root of what we're doing is kind of living a value system, not just telling people about things. Yeah. And I think that that's a really valuable thing that we all need right now, is positive examples of people living their value system. Yeah, totally. And so that's really what Plus One is at its core, is that it's somebody that believes, or it's a band or an artist that believe in social justice or believe in equity or believe in the environment and climate change, and believe that we can all do these tiny, seemingly insignificant actions, but that it'll do something. And so with Arcade Fire, it's certainly a value system of a like-minded, extraordinary group of humans who care about other people. Yeah. And that's where I think it started.
The whole idea, because it's such a simple premise, the whole idea of we're just going to take $1 from concert tickets, and over the course of an arena tour, that adds up to hundreds of thousands, if not, millions of dollars in some cases. You said on the panel, you guys didn't copyright this, you guys didn't create this idea, but where did it start with you guys? Who do you remember who originally had the idea and like, hey, we can take $1 and we can make it scale and we can grow this and make it something bigger? So
this band's manager, Scott, brought it to us. Okay. And I don't think a lot of people were doing it at that time at all. And I don't think a lot of people are doing it now. And which is why I think the growth of Plus One has been so exponential, is because we are removing all the barriers so that people can do it. But it was the band's manager, Scott, that really came to the table and said, hey, here's an effective, and I think effective is really important nowadays. So here's a really effective, light but meaningful way that we can participate on an ongoing basis.
As far as you guys are the funding mechanism, as far as who that money is going to, in Haiti, as in so many disasters, you hear millions of dollars get raised, and then there's always the questions after the fact of like, how much of this money is actually getting used for the purpose that people are donating it for? How did you guys kind of mitigate against that, or make sure at least that this money that you're raising and giving is being used for what you intended to be used for?
So we knew about Partners in Health from this book called Mountains Beyond Mountains. Okay. And so this is just for Arcade Fire that gives to Haiti, but other bands are giving to other causes. And so it's not Plus One isn't just Haiti, but this is, so Partners in Health is the leading organization on global health equity. And I think one of the things that really is, there's a number of things about Partners in Health that really resonated with us. One is they'd been in Haiti almost the longest. And so you think about, you go somewhere and you stay as being a very different model than you go and you leave when the money runs out, which is a problem and very common. So Partners in Health goes and they stay. There was this kind of like, there were so many rules that the World Health Organization was saying, and the World Bank at that time was saying, and they were kind of like, don't, for example, that we're not going to treat people in areas of poverty. And Partners in Health was like, that doesn't seem right. Yeah. So we're going to say, fuck that, and treat people and prove you guys wrong. Yeah. And they did. And so I think that really resonated with us. So they're really an extraordinary organization that we didn't even know how extraordinary they were actually at that time. It's a good question, because how do you know if somebody's doing really good things? It's a really great question. And I don't even know if at that time we knew how good they were. But as we got to know the work and really they're the second largest employer in Haiti. Wow. Yeah. So it's 98% Haitians that were running the organization. And then with other organizations, that is one of the barriers, actually, that Plus One tries to, has broken down, is that, who is doing the right work? Who is moving the needle in these areas? How do we know? And so we really help partner people with the organizations that maybe they've never heard of, but are doing it.
That's something because again, just to keep referencing the panel you were on this morning that I attended, but you mentioned you guys do a vetting, and you said this has grown far beyond Arcade Fire. You have, I think it's up to 50 artists you said now that include Tegan Sara, St. Vincent, Macklemore. It's a list of big name artists that you guys. How did when it came to expanding it beyond Arcade Fire, were people coming to you, or were you guys reaching out to other artists that you knew and saying, do you want to join the cause?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely both. So I think it started with, friendship with other artists. Like the National were probably the first other band to do this, and that and helped us kind of figure out, how does this feel with several of us doing this alongside one another? Yeah. And it has been a really important kind of learning time. Local Vampire Weekend did it super early on,
as far as do those band when you go to them or they come to you, do they say, here's who our money goes to, or here's a cause that's dearest to us but we don't really know who we should partner with as far as an organization? Do you guys kind of do the matchmaking, and how does that work?
Yeah, I think we have an increasing role in that piece of it. I think it's a really important piece that I think is challenging and complex to navigate. So we have one of the privileges of being in a band, as awesome as Arcade Fire for that time, did afford open doors and opportunities to learn from the most incredible people, like Jim Kim, who's now the president of the World Bank, and Paul Farmer, and Brian Stevenson of Equal Justice Initiative, and get opportunities of listening and learning and understanding the complexity. But it's also allowed us to have an extraordinary advisory board on this stuff to really help bring the evidence. One of the biggest challenges right now is the things that are proven that are evidence-based and working in terms of actually reducing inequity or bringing dignity and stuff are not necessarily where all the money's going. And it's a huge challenge of how do you bring the evidence to the people? And I'm I think we can help participate in that. Start putting our money where into places where in 50 years the world actually does look different if we invest this way. And that's not to say that any of these other things are bad, not at all, but we do like to have those conversations of certainly bands come and hey, this project, we really like it, and we want to make sure that on the very basic front, fans are not opting in. So by going to a show, we want to make sure that there's no repercussions for that. That as when you go to something, it's not something that is going to be harmful, or.
I was going to ask, do you guys try to keep it humanitarian focused, or are you open to working with bands who want to get more involved in more activist or political causes? For example, would you say, if a band came to you and said, we want to partner with the ACLU to, because we like what they're doing to combat Trump's, Muslim ban sort of thing, is that something you guys are open to, or are you saying we want to keep it more humanitarian?
Oh no, we're super open to it. Okay. Marion Hill's out right now for ACLU. Okay. We're partnering with Conor Oberst for Planned Parenthood. Okay, awesome. No, we're certainly we certainly are into it.
Right on, I'm happy.
We're structurally, both of those organizations as examples have, we give to their foundations as a 501c3, not the political side, but yeah.
Cool. You guys, Arcade Fire, stadium level band. It seems like the artists that you guys have partnered with are also all of a certain level. They're all arena level bands. You mentioned Conor Oberst, Vampire Weekend, even Tegan Sara has reached that level of St. Vincent. All those people the National, they're all people that, to their credit, are very popular acts, and in that regard, it's more self-evident of how they can leverage their popularity to raise money. Do you have any insight into a band on a smaller scale who doesn't have that stadium level audience? Is there ways that they can still be effective if they want to get involved in a certain cause?
So we actually, we were talking about all those bands who are have astonishing, fantastic careers. But we also do work with artists that are starting out or kind of figuring out the pathway, because I think one of the strengths of Arcade Fire's success in this is, in fact, that they started integrating this much earlier in their career, and that not just the money, but the fan and relationship with this and the actual like project grew as the band evolved. Like Arcade Fire fans are now actually responsible for like 1/10 of the largest teaching hospital in the Caribbean, approximately. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a crazy thing. To think that this fan community has really been one of the leading like philanthropist bodies of of a really important thing. We typically have like, we throw out like a $25 ticket as something that for us seems like a good place to start for a +1 partnership. And the reason for that is not anything besides, we're also artists first. And like the very core of +1 is art. And that art is the gatherer of people, and art is sharing, and that we all have something in common through this one bond. And that remains the most important thing, that you are not going to a charity concert, you're not going to a benefit concert, you're going to a show. And so as artists first, we really think that, if someone's coming to me getting $12 a night at the door, I want them to make a living out of their art first. Like I really, really, really do. And so I feel like if you're making $12 at the door per body, like do that for a while and make that money. And I don't think you need to be a financial giver yet. That's not to say that some people certainly have been doing it at a lower ticket price, and that's amazing. But I think there's a lot of ways of getting involved, and I think again it's about living the value system and showing, if you have, a lot of people talk about, I'm going to give a voice to people that don't have a voice, and that to me is incorrect. That the people have voices, they just don't have the microphone. And I think it's really important to think about that as a distinction. That if you do have a microphone, how you use it is really, really important. Who you share it with is really, really important. And providing kind of amplification is meaning it's not my voice saying it. I'm just providing amplification for someone else's very important voice. Cool. And so I think that any artist at any level has art is really, really important right now. Just art, like not even like the philanthropy is really important, but the art itself is really important as an honest reflection and discussion of our current situation globally. You know what I mean? And so in that, I think that's really important. And then living whatever that value system that is outwardly and consistently, I think is really important. It's easy to be fickle with one's value system these days, and we can all be guilty of it, for sure. But I think the more examples we have of people really living by an important, respectful, dignified sense of humanity, not to get too...
I can go there if you want to go there. Lastly, and this is sort of kind of picking up on that whatever you call it, but it seems to me that we're living in a time when, even though you hear a lot about low voter turnout, political apathy among young people, and that, it seems to me, maybe particularly in the artistic community, with artists big and small, that we live in a time where there is a lot of social consciousness. Do you get that? I know you can maybe only speak to your own experience in that, but do you feel that as well? That maybe even more so than in decades past or generations past, that artists nowadays overall are more socially conscious than maybe is the perception?
I certainly think that artists are super socially conscious. I think that artists have always been a part of the leadership in social movements, obviously. And I think that art itself is vitally important. So I think like when we go back to art being really important right now, it is. And I guess they're like, I don't know if they're more socially conscious if
and maybe you should have qualified that by saying pop artist. Pop is in the more traditional definition of just popular artist being more socially conscious.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so, and I hope that it's genuine. And it's amazing to see all these people come out and have voices and amplification. And I hope that we can stick to it, that it's not something that's fad-based, but that it's actually like important-based, and that we can stick to this being part of our role now as artists, that it's not an opportunity, but also a responsibility to actually say something, and do something.
Awesome. Marika, I've enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I believe the website, correct me if I'm wrong, it's +1 .org. Is that correct?
It's +1.org.
The number one, not,
It makes me feel a little bit like,
there you go. This one. There you go.
But I don't mean it that way. I just mean it like +1.org.
How do I say this? The number one, not the word one. There you go. +1.org. Marika, and sorry, I gotta ask, and I know you're not technically in the band anymore, but people will be pissed if I don't ask. Can you say anything about new Arcade Fire material coming out?
I mean, there's going to be new material coming out. And in my humble opinion, it's awesome.
Groundbreaking insight. Marika, but honestly, I've really enjoyed this, and it's just damn impressive what you guys are doing, what you and the band and your organization are doing, so thank you for that work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to talk to you.